What's up guys, I'm Nico of CAMCRUNCH, and today I'm going to teach you guys how to add a vignette with Adobe Lightroom, as well as talk about the different types of vignettes that you can add using Adobe Lightroom. Now let's go ahead and get started. Now the first type of vignette that you can add in Lightroom is called the lens vignette that you will find on the lens correction tab in the develop module in Lightroom, and it's all the way down here. And the lens vignette, well, it does what its name says. It tries to imitate the type of vignette that you would normally get with a lens that has a noticeable vignette on it. So you can use it either to add a vignette or to remove a vignette that you can find in your lens. So moving it to the left will add a vignette. It will darken the edges, and moving it to the right will brighten the edges. So if your lens has a vignette already, you can move it to the right to reduce the amount of vignette that you have, but to add a vignette, you move it to the left to the negative settings. And if you move it all the way to negative 100, you can see that it's not too dark around the corners. I mean, it's very noticeable, but it's all the way down, it's all the way here in the corners and not too big. You can then change the midpoint. You can bring it closer, but it still doesn't go far to the center. And then you can move it further to the edges. So that's the first type of vignette. That's called lens vignette. Now with lens vignette, you don't actually get the same effect if you crop the image. So let's say I crop the image down to this. If I move the vignette to the left and add a vignette, I only get it in the bottom left corner because the bottom right corner is the middle of the original image. And what lens vignette does is it adds a vignette to the original image and not the cropped image. So let's pull this back and let's reset the crop because we don't want it cropped for the next setting. So the next type of vignette is down here in effects, and it's called PostCrop vignette, and it does again what its name says. It adds a vignette, but it takes into account whether you crop the image or not. So even if you crop the image, you will still see the vignette on all corners of the image. So let's crop the image slightly right now. And that's fine for this demonstration. And let's add the vignette. As you can see, you get the vignette on all the corners. Now, if you move the amount all the way to negative 100, you can see that the vignette is overall much stronger than the lens vignette of the past setting. But it also gives you more options. So you also get the midpoint option, which you got with the lens vignette setting. But you also get a roundness setting, which changes how round or not round your vignette is. And then you get a feather setting, which basically smoothens out the vignette or makes the vignette harder. If you move it to the 0 setting, you get a very hard vignette, while if you move it all the way to 100, you get a softer vignette. So you can play around with these until you get the vignette that you want. I typically use the post-crop vignette over the lens vignette, regardless of whether I crop the photo or not, because of the additional options that it gives, as well as I don't really need to think about whether I crop the image or not. If I want that vignette, then I want it on all corners, so I use the post-crop vignette. So let's take this image, for example, and let's add a vignette that's not too exaggerated, but still present. So we move the amount to the left if we want a dark vignette, and we move it to the right if we want a bright vignette. I usually don't brighten corners even if my lens has a vignette. It's just not something that I do because it's very noticeable, while, you know, if you have a dark vignette, a lot of pictures have it, and it's characteristic of a lens, of lenses, so, you know, it can seem natural, while as if you have a bright vignette, it doesn't seem as natural. So let's stick to the darker vignette. Let's move it down a bit. And then let's move the midpoint out a little bit by moving it to the right. Just a little bit. And then the roundness, let's move it to the plus setting to make it less solid, as well as the feather setting. And there you have it. That's how I usually add a vignette. And those are the two different types of vignettes that you can add in Lightroom. So yeah, I hope this tutorial helped and clear up some of the differences that the lens vignette has from the post-crop vignette. If you haven't yet, please subscribe, like the video, favorite the video if you want to, share the video if you found it helpful and you think others will find it helpful, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.